Hello, dear friends. We're continuing our series of talks on secrets of the eternal book. As you understand, we're not talking about the stories written in the Pentateuch. There are no stories in the Pentateuch. So, as always with us is the Kabbalist, Dr. Michael Leitman. Hello. Hello, and I'm warning you, these aren't stories, and even the book itself is not a book. But we'll talk about that later. What do you mean? Because this is what people call it. But actually, it's a system for the correction of man, for the correction of the soul. It's an instruction. Yes, it is. That leads a person from the very start to the very end, to the 125th degree. Yes. So this is what this book is taking us through. It began long before us, from the root level. So today we're starting our next chapter called VaYera. VaYera, show number 1. So the translation of VaYera means to see. It means, and he appeared to him. So we'll come to that in a moment, but before that, I'll tell you what I read about it. It says, Abraham broke in Beersheba an excellent fruit garden. He opened a tent in all 4 directions that were kept open all the time, so that a bypasser could always come in, rest, have something to eat, and this way Abraham, showing his hospitality and teaching others, brought tens of thousands of people to serve the Creator. His wife Sarah also dedicated herself to disseminate the truth in the world, and she taught women. I want to ask inside of me, what are these qualities of love, bestowal, shown by Abraham and Sarah as they opened their tent and so on? Opening their tent in all directions is Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet, and Malchut, meaning all the 4 parts of the soul. Sometimes each of these is presented as consisting of 3 lines, and then you have 3 times 4, which is 12, like the 12 tribes, for example. But in the meantime, these qualities aren't scrutinized, they're not unraveled yet. And from here come the 4 parts of the light, and many things are divided into 4. Also, north, south, east, west. Exactly. So Abraham achieved the complete quality of bestow. He opened his tent as of his soul that's completely capable of bestowal in all directions. In all 4 directions, meaning that he's unlimited, and any bypassers that might come, meaning other qualities that might appear in a person, within a person who attained the degree of Abraham that we're talking about now. And you have Abraham and his tent in Beersheba that achieved such a quality where he's in the complete quality of bestowal, of chesed, of mercy. And any other qualities and desires that appear in him are included in that one main desire, meaning he has achieved his main state or condition, and obviously not only he and his 9 sefirot, but also his, so to speak, corporeal part, Sarah. Meaning the egoistic qualities that appear in him, they too can all connect and participate together in that quality of bestowal that he has completely revealed in himself. Who are these bypassers? His particular qualities. It's just like, it seems to me that the entire world's around me. It's not around me. It's inside of me. It also says so in the Torah about all the bypassers, stars, people, animals, plants, you name it. These are all different qualities inside of us. A person consists of 4 degrees of egoism: the still vegetative animate and the speaking degree, the human level. These are the 4 degrees of the ego, and they're projected outwards, as if outside of me there's such a world that consists of these qualities. And so what follows is that he has achieved such a state where even the highest egoistic qualities on the human level, they too inside of him connect to his main quality of bestowal, meaning that he has corrected himself, projected his main quality of bestowal outwards, and under it, he was able to put all the rest of his qualities that now only as if supplement the quality of bestow. Like there's the main quality and all the rest of the qualities have to be in a person too, but they all work together. So what is his mission? Abraham's task, what is it? To develop the quality of bestow in the general soul. His main quality. No one else besides him has this quality. Or, more correctly put, the quality of mercy. The quality of bestowal has several aspects, and the quality of mercy is the main one. So, for all of them to turn into that quality, for them to be as if washed by the quality of mercy, that they went through his tent. Yes, went through means actually that they stayed, they're corrected, so they cleaved on to him. And it says that Abraham invited bypassers and taught them all the time. He, so to speak, developed his garden, had his herd, in short, shishlik and fruits. That's a good way to draw bypassers and to work with the public. So he kind of caught them on their way. Yeah. He wanted not to simply feed them, but this is how a person has to act, knowing that all of these egoistic desires exist in him, that they're suffering, and the Creator helps us in that, showing us that we feel bad with them. And we, through studying the wisdom of Kabbalah, and through revelation, we achieve the understanding that fulfillment is possible only in the key of bestowal. What does it mean to break the fruit garden? Well, that's a correction on the vegetative level. The correction on the still level is that he entered the land of Israel. And on the animate level is that he had like this livestock from where he always took a young calf for any bypasser. And on the human level, that bypasser simply came by and he fed them physically, spiritually. So his main goal was to feed them spiritually, to teach them about life. Yeah, and since he was in the quality of mercy, I think that he also fed them physically. But we have to understand that it's not a joke. We're talking about the development of our soul here, and that everyone goes through these qualities, and this path of Abraham is something that all of us will go through. So the tent was opened in 4 directions, and this similar to the soul. No, not that it's similar. One symbolizes the other. And when we talk about our world, the same. 6 directions. Why 6? 4 directions, this is something geographical, because we're living on Earth. But in general, up and down, it's all in relation to man. You can invent as many axes as you want. Time, space, motion, different states. It's all known in science. Actually, it's all chosen by man. And it's actually according to the structure of our soul. Our world is a projection of the upper world. Our body is a projection of our soul. And therefore, we, in our world, behave egoistically in an egoistic key, the way we were supposed to behave in an altruistic key toward our soul in the spiritual world. So let's start studying this chapter. It says, "The Lord appeared to Abraham near the great trees of Mamre, while he was sitting at the entrance to his tent in the heat of the day. Abraham looked up and saw 3 men standing nearby. When he saw them, he hurried from the entrance of his tent to meet them and bowed low to the ground and said, 'If I found favor in your eyes, my Lord, do not pass your servant by. Let a little water be brought, and then you may all wash your feet and rest under this tree. Let me get you something to eat so you can be refreshed, and then continue.'" So what's actually going on here? Yeah, at first he as if talks to the Creator, then to the 3 of them. Who exactly is he talking to, and so on. So this is the beginning of the Holy Trinity that you have in different religions and so on. And of course, this isn't what it's about. But it's because all of it is revealed to a person in 3 lines, because a person consists of the quality of reception, the left line, the quality of bestowal, the right line, and make a combination out of the 2 according to the way to which he advances and builds his soul, which is the middle line. And therefore, providence that comes to him from above, it comes in the form of 3 lines. The revelation of the upper force in 3 lines. When Abraham's in his tent, meaning a person that possesses this main quality of mercy, kernel quality of mercy, and the upper force appears to him in the form of 3 lines, this means that he can already start working with this next following egoistic desire, because he can't survive only on altruism. The entire egoistic desire created by the Creator, as the Creator says, I've created the evil inclination, I've created the Torah spice. It's necessary, and he has to start working with it now. And so the growing ego, the Torah for its correction, and the general corrected part, the combination of the ego and the Torah in the middle line, this is now the method that he's receiving after achieving his main quality, the quality of Abraham. Abraham doesn't need these 3 lines. These 3 lines are the next stage of his development. The development from the degree of Abraham, the very first spiritual degree, onwards. And what now? Development can occur only if the ego develops in you. And therefore, here Abraham, as if after completing his degree of mercy and bestowal, simply being hearty, open, he starts entering the next degree. A person starts revealing his ego that's actually hidden in him, but in the meantime hasn't revealed itself yet, and now it will. So Abraham now revealed this ego in him. First of all, he revealed these 3 lines, meaning, wait a moment, something's going on here. Something a bit fishy is going on with my soul. Previously, everything was very simple, a bit naive, everything's open. I in front of this one force, and now there's a kind of a new combination here. And he bows to it, and he knows what to do. A person knows what to do. And here he starts perceiving a new method. What does a person feel when he experiences this kind of state? Like the one Abraham had. Confusion. Happiness and confusion. On the one hand, he understands that in general, he already exhausted himself. He has no further resources with which he can advance. But he still feels incomplete, that he hasn't realized himself, and that's true, on the one hand. On the other hand, there's no continuity, no further development. This quality, on the one hand, it doesn't really need any development. You see, a person reaches the age of 100, meaning a complete degree. 10 sfirot times 10 sfirot, the complete state of the soul. Everything's fulfilled, everything's fine, and it actually needs no continuity, and it's necessary to get him out of this state. In the spiritual world, any complete state, no matter what it is, according or by its qualities, it's complete. And in order to get a person out of that, you really need to shake him up. And this is what these 3 that appear before him actually do. The angels. Well, angels, this reminds me of other things, but let's leave that for now. So he actually understands that it's the upper force, because there's none else besides him. There's just one. And so he doesn't understand why are they 3 and how to work with it. On the inside, his soul consists of 1 line, but that 1 line is right. If there's something that appears against it, then he can't work with it. It's a big problem. So what does he have left to do with his one future son besides to bind him and maybe even kill him? He can't work with this tremendous egoistic force in any other way that suddenly appears in him, that he gave birth to, that suddenly appeared in him. And you said that these 3 came in order to shake him up, in order to push him forward. And this can be done only by a good shaking. And it says that these were 3 angels, Gabriel, Michael, and Raphael, right? So it says, there are 4 main angels, 3 of them appeared here. So when a name ends with El, with the ending El, then we're talking about an angel, the upper force, through which the Creator, as the general force of nature, the whole complete and integral force, reveals himself. And angels, these are particular forces, the particular forces of nature, gravity, electromagnetic forces, the different forces that influence us, we can call them angels. And as you said, they came in order to give Abraham his continuity, and they said, "Where is Sarah, your wife?" "There in the tent," he said. Then one of them said, "I will return to you about this time next year, and Sarah, your wife, will have a son." Now, Sarah was listening at the entrance to the tent, which was behind him. And Abraham and Sarah, they were already very old, and Sarah was past the age of childbearing, meaning they completely corrected all of their qualities, their souls, both parts, the first 9 sfirot and the 10th sfirah of Abraham and Sarah. They were completely corrected in their main qualities. So Sarah laughed to herself, and she thought, after I'm worn out and my Lord is old, where will we take new desires for correction from, and how is it possible that such a basic quality as mercy, and that she relates to it as the receiving part, and Abraham has the bestowing, the male part, in regard to the female part, when they work this way, in the symbiosis between them, in this kind of connection, creating a general vessel, they've realized this quality, meaning that there can't be any continuity, and you can't go back or anything. This is what they feel, what they see. That this general quality that he has acquired now, the quality of mercy, the very first quality, the main quality that appears in a soul, it's absolute, it's whole and complete, and there can't be anything else. So what else can be added here in the form of something new that will be born from this quality? It, in and of itself, is so whole and perfect. And you can give birth to something only out of a state of deficiency. That's my next state that I can't achieve. And then I as if give birth to the next state, the next degree. And it's through suffering and problems. And there's a need for some way out, for correction, for something. And here now, I've achieved completely everything. And therefore, the revelation of how is this possible is called laughter. We'll meet it later on many times. And the different stories. Laughter is actually a revelation of the good and kind upper state, but that in a natural way can't be achieved by me now. It happens that such a great future depth is revealed to a person, and he laughs. But this laughter isn't sarcastic kind of laughter or good laughter or some other kind of laughter. None of those. It's a laughter of revelation. Yeah. It's the emission of this special kind of energy that suddenly appears in a person, that's revealed in a person, from the next degree that was never known to him and that he could never imagine. And it says here that Sarah was surprised that she'll have a son, a child, because she was already past the age of childbearing. So what does it mean in this regard here? Creation, development, and the female part of the soul is possible only when the soul doesn't have 10 complete sfirot. Otherwise, it can't generate anything. It can only help if other souls rise to it and ask of her, like parents toward their children, but they themselves can't give birth to anything. So giving birth means that when in me awaken further uncorrected desires, and I correct them and connect them to myself. So that's birth. Yeah. And based on that, I can advance. And if something like that is not revealed in me, a new corrected desire, then I don't give birth. And this ended for Sarah, meaning she completed, both of them, Abraham and Sarah, completed the degree of mercy, and they can't imagine what else could be done. Now, Abraham, what he mainly can't, is that he in and of himself is a sufficient quality of mercy, and therefore she says, "My Lord is old." Meaning the first 9 Sfirot can't give anything to the 10th Sfirah of Malchut, and the Malchut doesn't reveal any additional desires that could be corrected by the upper light and to add it to the general Kli. So that's it. Both parts of the soul became completely like the Creator. In what? In their 10th part. And they can't give birth to anything. Abraham and Sarah can't give birth to anything in a person. If it's the quality of mercy, it doesn't need anything in and of itself but to bestow. So to give birth, to do, to change something, there is nothing to change. This quality doesn't work with the ego in depth. It doesn't discover anything in the ego. What is mercy? He sees everything as perfect, corrected, good. It's not like we might imagine everything as goody-goody in our world, but it's a small, egoistic manifestation of our soul that simply doesn't reveal in depth the future giant qualities of contradiction. On the one hand, he understands it all and attains it completely. Everything, the entire development of all the souls and everything, but he sees it in his own key. He sees it through good, kindness, and therefore all the problems, the various souls that will ascend and descend and fall into hell, and that will rise back to the correction and the black or white light and constant problems and struggles. For him, he doesn't see it as a struggle. It's not terrible. To him, it all seems as the manifestation of good and kindness because he looks at everything through the quality of mercy. And this kind of concludes this kind of paradoxical vision out of this, from this spiritual quality of mercy, of the world, of motion, specifically in this one key. It's simply that this is how it seems, that in the world there simply can't be evil or cruelty or corruption or anything. If a person looks at the world through Abraham, yes, even though that he sees all of these terrible manifestations like murder and wars, spiritually wise meaning. Of course, our world isn't included in this vision because it's imaginary. But he sees good and kindness in all of it. It's like if you show a little child a surgeon who's cutting a person, he'll say that he's a murderer, and a grown-up will say that this is a generous person saving lives and so on. So Abraham and Sarah, what they're lacking here is the revelation of the next degree, but no longer in their key. But it has to be like the birth of something new, a completely new degree, a son, meaning the next degree of bestowal. And along with it is also born a daughter. The Torah never speaks only about the birth of a son, but this is what it writes about because it's the birth of the first 9 bestowing parts, and the 10th part, the receiving part, always comes with that. There can't be the one without the other. So if they're talking about the birth of a son, next to that there's always a daughter. Not next to, but that's connected with, and maybe even more than one, because when we're going to talk about the more complex qualities that come from Abraham, and that the quality of Isaac is already influencing Abraham, then here you have a more complex, combined quality of Abraham, and atop that, Isaac. So it could appear as a single quality of reception, or 2, or even more. For example, it says about Abraham himself that besides Sarah, he also had Torah and Hagar and others. This means that even that quality of mercy, he had to express it in this vast amount of female receiving parts, the female receiving parts of his soul. And in our world, it seems like separately existing female parts, but this is only how it seems to us. Later, you'll find out that what you were doing was for yourself. So women that think that they exist separately, like, I don't know, feministic movements or something like that. No, 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 no. These are all final egoistic forms, so this has no spiritual root. No. And there's nothing to be offended by. I'm talking about how it is by nature. People can say whatever they want, but nature's nature. We're not talking about whether we feel like it or not, and that things might be different in nature. If that's how it is, then there's nothing to talk about. But only how to realize it and accept it and use it correctly. Why is it that specifically in our time that these movements are becoming so widespread and eminent? It's because we're so egoistically developed. It's necessary to show a person that actually his soul is on the one hand global and shattered, broken off from others on the other. And this is how the ego is expressed in our time. It's not like it was in ancient times or during the times of the building of the Babylonian Tower, where they wanted to do everything by themselves. Only we, together in friendship, and suddenly they discovered the ego, mutual hate, mutual rejection. And we see, according to how our ego develops, we also see what is happening with us today. We've reached the same Babylon. It's simply repeating itself. On the one hand, everyone is globally connected. On the other hand, we're completely interdependent. And it's tearing us apart. We can't get along with each other, not even with ourselves or our family or our children. And this is why these feminist movements appear and so on. Yeah, inside a person himself. It comes from within a person. This outcry lives inside a person. Give me freedom. Our ego is pushing each and every one of us to exist by himself. I don't need anyone around me. I don't need a partner, neither a sexual partner, nor for family life or children or anything. And that's called freedom. And this is called freedom. But through this feeling, a person has to come to its negation. This is an interesting ending. Yeah, with the law of double negation. Dear friends, unfortunately our time's up. It's only the beginning. Yeah, a very powerful portion. They came, he saw, he revealed. And we'll continue our talk about the revelation in 3 lines on our next show. Till next time, all the best.